Okay, so what I believe we are doing in typology, and I think it is a noble pursuit. This goes for socionics land, Jungian typology land, all of it. You know, obviously we're using different systems, we have different definitions, but I think what we are all attempting to do is we are mapping fundamental ontological dichotomies. You know, when you hear someone, regardless of the system, say, you know, what it means to be on the FETI axis versus the TEFI axis, just as an example, what they're trying to highlight is some sort of key fundamental ontological difference between these two groups and and their manner of being and their manner of how they perceive reality is effectively. And I think this does have something to offer the world of modern psychology, because psychology, you know, a clinical psychologist, they have all the data. You know, you see someone like, you know, Jordan Peterson or whoever, they'll cite all the data behind blah, blah, blah. You know, they could be talking about, you know, some sort of disorder, maybe, you know, narcissism, BPD, I don't know. They could be citing whatever. The thing about something like psychology is they don't always have the philosophical rigor behind their definitions. So, yeah, they have all the data in the world, but then what they're talking about was never clearly defined and distinct from something else. And I think that's what typology brings to something like psychology, which is that it brings that degree of philosophical rigor. Well, at least at its best it does. At its worst, it doesn't do shit. But like at its best, the best thinkers in typology, I think, are bringing a degree of philosophical rigor in the realm of ontology, key ontological dichotomies that separate different groups of people from each other, and highlight, like, that is basically what the types are. Different types are these key ontological differences between people. And that's basically like, you know, when you hear someone like Jordan Peterson talk about, you know, a term like extroversion or something, in Big Five terms, it's like, well, how do they define it in Big Five? Well, they'll be like, oh, you're sociable, you get energy from talking to people, whatever. It's something, you know, it's something on the surface. And then in typology, you have, you know, a bunch of robust attempts to define what that means, what introversion and extroversion means ontologically, in terms of your manner of being at the deepest possible level. And then, you know, if you were to bring that to psychology, basically you'd have this clash where, you know, psychologists have all this clinical data, all the scientific data, but then the foundation it's built on is kind of a definition of something, whether it could be something like extroversion. I'm just using it as an example. I'm not even necessarily saying they do that one bad. I'm just as an example, they have something like that, a concept where on a philosophical level, on a definitional level, there may not have been that much rigor behind sort of establishing the most fundamental definition for something before going and, you know, prioritizing this data accumulation. Anyways, that was a messy ramble. I'll probably make another video about this. This was supposed to be a short, but it's like fucking 4.5 minutes long.